This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Hing.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio. Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths who navigate consciousness. Their passion is to support you in your evolution. As consciousness, we are all one mind, one heart, free of all limitations. Experience this reality with us and discover how it can make a difference in your daily living. Join us in a state of grace as we explore, with warmth and humor, this thing we call life. Now, here are Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We're your co-hosts, Joan Newcomb coming to you from Tacoma, Washington, and my partner, Janet Barrett, is coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Hello, everyone. How nice to be with you just before Thanksgiving. Great day.
Yes, gobble, gobble. So today we are talking about shifty fades of 50 Shades of Grief. I was trying not to say the other thing. So 50 Shades of Grief. And the world is experiencing grief on a massive scale. And we are each grieving loss of identity, the loss of power. We're experiencing generational grief. Right in the U.S., it feels like we're reliving the U.S. Civil War. We're also experiencing gender and familial grief. So we're going to explore this complex topic from the greater perspective of consciousness and offer ways to navigate and nurture through this challenging time for all.
And if you'd like to call in, listeners, please join us here at 1-844-390-8255. It's always good to try and do it in the first 10 minutes of the show, because when we access heart space, we know we're all focused on that. So if you have any input and you'd like to share or any questions, we're happy to talk with you about it over the air. So that's 1-844-390-8255.
And if you're not able to call in, here are ways to get in touch with us and connect with us beyond the show. We are available at our website, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. You can go there and find the podcasts of our previous shows. You can also find our individual websites, Janet's business and my business websites. And we post our blog posts there, so you can catch up with the things that we write. Janet writes on Monday and I write on Fridays. You can find out about our meetups. If you're in the Northwest, Janet has them twice a week in Portland, and I do them around the Puget Sound. I'm in Seattle this weekend. I'm in University Place on Tuesday the 29th. I'm once a month in Tacoma and other places as well. So they're all listed there on our website. And you can also find out more about our sessions. Janet does wonderful sessions on phone and Skype. And I have some special ones up right now, too. I'm doing single sessions through the holidays. Normally I focus on coaching programs, individuals and groups for a period of 2 to 3 months. But there's a lot of stuff going on. So I'm available for single sessions right now. You can also find out about us on Facebook. If Facebook is your preferred medium, you can friend Janet at Janet Barrett. You can friend me at Joan Marjorie Newcomb. You can friend the show, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and just join the groups and join the fun. Or if you like Twitter, you can follow us on Twitter. The show is at Joan and Janet. And I'm also on Twitter at Joan M. Newcomb. And I go wild and crazy on Twitter, so you will go places you've never gone before. And if you like YouTube, we're on YouTube. The show Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet is on YouTube. And I am on YouTube. Joan M. Newcomb is on YouTube. So you can follow all my stuff, though you can also get my videos on our website as well.
lots of different ways for you to connect and join with us and at different times and places at your convenience. And we want to thank all of you, all our listeners, in this time and space, out of time and space, that we're all connected. And there are so many great people that you can avail yourself of. So you don't have to feel that you're alone in whatever it is you're noticing in your life. So Joan and I so enjoy being with you every week and tracking what we notice in the world, and you're part of that. So thank you very much.
Yeah. And, the other thing is, if you want to connect with us beyond the show, or if you wished you could call in, but it's kind of intimidating because, we are broadcast to 190 countries and we're live on the air with, I don't know how many thousand people we're talking to, but we also have last count, 31 subscribers to the pod. 31. Just 31. We're really lonely.
32. It was 32 something.
32,000 subscribers to the podcast. So if you would rather join us in a small group, an intimate group that is up close and personal, and you can join in the conversation, once a month we have a conscious conference call. And the next one is on December 15th. It's always the third Thursday of the month. And we send us an email at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com, and we'll send you the phone number. And we talk at 7 o'clock Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern.
And those are profound, aren't they?
Oh, yes. They're getting, because each one builds its own resonance, so it's been getting stronger and stronger each month, and it's pretty amazing stuff. And I really enjoyed the last one a whole lot, mainly because I just sat back and listened. It was a great healing for me. So.
Well, and it's a way to connect with I say few just because it doesn't matter how many are there on the line. It just feels like a lot smaller than the whole world. It has much more of a personal feeling to it.
Right.
And whoever is sharing at the time is really representing so many others and viewpoints and accesses. And they're of the highest quality every time, no matter who's on that line. It's just lovely. So listeners, if you're going to call in, it's 1-844-390-8255. And we're going to talk about 50 Shades of Grief. We thought that kind of put together what Joan and I have been noticing all and in group and with session and within ourselves, all these different variables that seem to come down to ways that we're feeling. This has been an incredible opening that's happened, and it's not just in this country; it's globally.
Yes.
And that's what's really, for those of you that perhaps aren't as tuned in as maybe Joan and I are in the way that we are, and you are tuned in your way. You may not be able to call it that or know what you're feeling, but trust us. It's out there. We're all in it, and we're going to kind of identify and maybe pull apart some of that to make it just a little more easier on all of us. So we'll be doing that when we come back from what do you think? Do we want to go to break now or wait just a little bit, Joan?
Well, I liked your instinct. This is such a pervasive thing that you want to take us into heart space as soon as possible. Do you want to take us into heart space before the break or do it after so they don't have to hold it?
Let's do it after the break. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so our producer is like, he's sitting there tapping his toes like, anytime, ladies. All right, so we have to stop for a commercial break, but stay tuned because we're talking about 50 Shades of Grace and a State of Grace.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs. Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I am your host, Joan, along here with Janet. And we are talking about 50 Shades of Grief. I'll get that right before the show is over.
I'm appreciating our humor about something so serious. you know, yeah, it's and that's exactly what could be going on, everyone. So, well, let's see about accessing heart-centered awareness here, and we'll see what shows up. This is the true joy and the nature of consciousness that every time we do this, Joan will tell you, she just loses tracks of whatever we thought we were going to talk about. And because when we access that place within ourselves, everything breaks down. And that's the nature of it. And that's why we suggest that space. So what seemingly is working on a human level to be noticed, really, this is where we want to go. So, all right, everybody. So whatever time and space you're joining us, and just invite yourself to breathe. Bring your awareness to your heart, physical heart. And you can be busy doing other things, but the part of you that is tracking this. So we'll just bring it to your awareness a little more. So just notice your heart. It's the most magnificent thing. And it's an organ, and it beats. It tells you that you are alive. And a lot of people are feeling very compromised physically. And that's something that we want to just notice, not be attached to, and realize how well-serving it does and reflects. So just notice your heart. There it is. All right. And then the second meaning of heart is going to be the emotional terrain. So from a neutral positioning, not unattached, notice those emotions that are coloring life for you. And you can notice them as a feeling, you can notice them as a color, you can notice them as your brother, you can notice them in any way. Just allow yourself to know that you probably have more than one running. And they're that kind of hidden thing that so often motivates us. So in this neighborhood of time that we find ourselves in, a lot is being stirred up that you've been holding on to and maybe unaware of. So just notice. There we go. Not quite there yet. All right, there's a breath. And into the third meaning of heart, core, essence of all. So just allow yourself to expand to that place, state. And this is where you and I are one. This is the infinite sea of potential, where it's all about light photons and biophotons with a little bit of mass and resonances and frequencies and vibrations and information. And all our story is just information. And it's patterns. All this creates patterns. And as consciousness, it's all about potential. And then it forms, it becomes energy, it becomes something. But it's potential. And you can just feel in the breath, in the beat of the heart, every place there's a place of change. There's a place where something is not anything, and then it becomes something. And it's about being present. And it's about how there's no separation. And that you and I have individual hearts, but in this place, we're all one. And we can look at our stuff here, what we each individually feel, and not be attached. And let it just be, and watch it come apart. And that this is warmth and support, non-judgment. And this is such a time for this to be present for each of us. And whatever you think life is about, in this state, it isn't. So allow yourself to feel comfort. I was just in Kauai, Hawaii. The water was 71, 75 degrees. And I was just hanging on the boogie board, just floating. And I would allow all of you in that state of that warmth, suspended, just moving your feet a little bit, and putting your snorkel mask in the water and seeing all the life that's in there. It was just wonderful. And you can just feel that gentle sway in the water, the current. I'm not feeling tumultuous waves and things like that. I'm just feeling in this state, in this place, just the current of observing and the life that's present. And it's infinite varieties. All righty, Miss Joan, what you noticing?
I was noticing the infinite varieties, and but it feels like storm clouds. And yeah, it feels like storm clouds. There's a bit. There might even be a thunderstorm because there's some electrical aspect to it as well, and you can just kind of hear the rumblings. And you know how the kind of tension that's in the air just before? Yeah. That's what it feels like, is that tension in the air before the storm.
Yeah. There's something very cleansing about a stronger wave, right? It just, you see this hits the beach and then it just pulls everything and the beach is smooth again, right? And all the whatever that was on the beach is now gone. It's into the water.
Talking about that undercurrent or that
yes, that's
neat tide or rip tide or something like that.
Or just when that wave hits the beach, whatever wave it might be. Yeah.
So something's there's something hitting the beach to pull all the riffraff back into the ocean. So from this perspective, and as I'm feeling, it's feeling the tension building, and it's very uncomfortable. There's a high level of discomfort, and it's all on a physical body level as things are coming up to be released, and it is calling out a lot of aspects from the depths of us, and things that we identified as real, belief systems, and just ways of life that we assumed were real. And as that's kind of being dismantled, or that's being extracted out of us, or the vibration is so high, it's just shifting. Our bodies are having very extreme reactions to it.
Well, one thing high frequency can often do is shake free stuff that's lower range, right?
Right. That's exactly what's going on. That's exactly what this is.
And in group and with people and in myself, I've really been noticing all these different aspects of grief, from very ancestral patterns, from whether it's Nazi Germany's pattern of what happened in Germany after World War I, and probably World War I and before, and in the American, whether it was the Revolution or whether it was the Civil War, and all this stored energy that's emotionally been held in different ways that maybe we didn't notice, but now we're like, whoa, what is that? I didn't know that was in there. I don't, people have been taken by surprise, I think, and
somebody
on all sides.
Somebody I know who lives in Florida said she felt like there was a lot of unprocessed grief from the South, from losing the Civil War. Like they lost the Civil War, and they've been resentful about it ever since.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Our experience here on the West Coast is a little different. You have these different energies that are present in different places. The United States is a huge place, right?
Right.
It's not like,
yes.
It's not like Rhode Island or something. It's much more than that.
It's not like, right, exactly. It's not like Europe, where people are always saying, oh, well, Finland did this or Iceland did that. And it's like, yeah, Iceland's got the population of Pittsburgh, folks.
Yeah.
Finland may be the population of the state of Maryland, but really we're talking, we're talking 325 million people, and a 3,000 mile wide country.
Yeah.
I don't know how the other direction is, but we are and so there are different areas that have historical resonances, but also within us all there have been some patterns that have come to the surface that we have been struggling with for decades, in terms of equal rights for women, or acknowledging women as people, acknowledging people of different genders as people, acknowledging people of different religions as people, acknowledging anybody who's not white or hetero male as people. And so it really is, it's fascinating to see this. It's fascinating and painful and irritating to see this come up.
Yeah, right.
And I would say it's not coming up because the other side is more powerful. It's coming up because the other side is losing power. And anything that is dominant, anything that's exerting dominance is not powerful.
And one thing that we've been held in the United States is that we haven't changed outside of our borders too much. We've accumulated territory, but Europe and other places, those countries have changed their borders often. It's so, unless you were an island state, you could be taken over by another island or another bigger place. But people were, one day they're France and next day they're Germany,
Right.
depending upon where they are, all these borders. And so you have all these different influences that are running. And, I think how we experience that in the United States sometimes is when people marry someone who's from a different place, and you have no idea that your great-grandfather came from there, and all his influences are present now in you. And you don't have any awareness of it. You don't even know past your third generation. A lot of people don't know beyond the grandfather.
Right, if that. What we don't realize here in the States is that we embody resonances from around the world.
Totally.
And my family's been here since 1640, and we're still immigrants. We're still immigrants here. We came here because of religious freedom,
and people came because they were trying to escape.
Yes.
From what they were. So that there's grief there and all that embodied. And a lot of people, when they came, didn't want to have anything to do with their past. That was then. This is now. And you can feel that that's an illusion that is really not holding together anymore.
Well, there's also the United States has a model of being a melting pot.
Yeah.
And so you were supposed to come and assimilate.
Yeah.
And the one thing to understand is it's really hard to learn English as well. So if you are a new immigrant and you are trying to learn English, you're probably not speaking your native language at home because you're trying to get this new language.
Right.
And so, there's a whole generations of kids that didn't learn the language of their parents. Mm-hmm. I work with this woman who's in her 50s and she's Filipino, and her parents would speak this dialect at home. Because that
was their native tongue.
Right. She's first generation American. She has no connection to that thread in her world. Mm-hmm. I love the Canadian example because they consider themselves mosaics. So you get to have your cultural origin and you get to be Canadian. And it just feel how rich that makes it. It makes it so culturally rich to acknowledge people's individuality. Not that there wasn't any colonial stuff probably with the Inuits,
Right.
But not quite the same as trying to eradicate things in the way the United States has done.
And they're relatively young. Right. When I've been to Canada, which is a lovely place to go to, and the people are lovely, and and everyone I met was like first or second generation Canadian. So they were still bringing wherever they were from was still really very present, right? And it was like, and they're melding that together and becoming, and so we have a unique place, I think, in history. And
let me say, I'm going to stop you there because I know my family on my father's side we were Canadian first. So let me see the history of Canada. The history of Canada, beginning in the late 15th century.
Yeah.
So actually, Canada was first in some ways. But
that's true. I understand.
So in that terms, but in terms of the immigrants being new or whatever, or the population being new, I think it's we're not acknowledging that there's new people becoming Americans all the time. So we just think that they're young because Justin Trudeau is so cute and sexy. There, he's so
and don't
scrumptious.
take everything
we
say for whatever, everybody, because we have a lot of Canadian listeners and friends.
I went to high school in Canada, so I've got a great affinity for Canada. In fact, I sort of feel like, and I lived in London until I was 10. So the UK and Canada feel closer to home to me than the United States, which is why I have kind of an outside observation or a multicultural observation of the U.S., which I don't feel like this is interesting. We got off of grief and we got off and got over to there. I think, but where we started with was this conversation. What time is it? Where we started with this conversation was about that we aren't acknowledging the loss or the grief and the multitude of identities that we have within us. And
okay, so there's the grief of misplacement or displacement.
Yeah.
Right. So we're talking generational, we're talking locational, we're talking identity, we're talking power. So those are part of what we're observing coming up and out. We're also noticing how judgmental people are. There's this darkness in several that we're witnessing through social media.
Well,
et
so
cetera.
what? Great. Thank you for steering it back to consciousness. So thank you so much. So here's the thing: is that there is darkness. And the world has a collective darkness. It's like there is a cesspool of the world that is our collective negativity, and we're seeing this come to the surface more and more. But the truth is it's because the light of consciousness is in all of us more. When there's greater light, it exposes the darkness, but then it dissipates it. So if you identify with it, first of all, if you like to sit in the dark, you get very offended that people are shining light in your eyes. And then it exposes where you haven't invested, all those antiquated, out-of-date, repressive, backwards beliefs and then it does dissipate, and if you identify with that stuff, you're going to be very uncomfortable in your perceived loss of power and loss of identity.
And I think we have to stay away from the judgments of light and dark. Energy is just energy, and it's all works because consciousness holds for all. Right, in that spectrum. And so what we might perceive as darkness to some people might not be, there's no attachment in that. What we're looking at is how we show up and what is showing up and what people have a license to that seems to be rejecting, limiting, compromising, and devaluing another human and another slice of consciousness. And that's what our intention is in noticing this, is to take out of the good and bad, right and wrong scenario and just look at it as energy that's expressing itself and what's showing up and what each of us have a bias to that we may be unaware of. We may have learned, we're getting to look at our beliefs, we're getting to look at our learnings and trainings and teaching. And what's really important to each of us is the individual, but as the collective as consciousness. So this is, for me, that's my thought on it.
And there's always contradictions in all of this. It's like, well, and I was thinking of it in terms of consciousness and unconsciousness. And in that the darkness is that which is not conscious.
Right.
And the contradiction is that it's all a creation of consciousness. So you could say there's consciousness in everything.
Right.
And as consciousness, when you get to that highest level, if you really go up to the 3,000 foot level or the International Space Station level, and look at this planet, it's all consciousness and it's all a lovely creation, and there's incredible neutrality for any of the things that are going on in the individual storyline on this planet.
So we're not limiting it in our language, and that's what we want to be clear of and share with our listeners and with
well, I'm fine about being judgmental as well, because as on one level, I'm judgmental as hell about anybody who is, infringing other people's rights. So just let you know, but on the level of consciousness, there's tremendous neutrality and there is no good or bad.
And this is the exploration that we do, right? Is that we straddle both all the time. And how to pull from one to the other and how it ebbs and flows. And it's like, all of it is just experience. And it's what you do with it. And where one sees a disaster, one sees opportunity. So you can keep it in that contrast state, or you can go to polarity, or you can do the scalar.
Right. So and you might be, actually, we'll touch base on scalar in just a second. But we did say in our show description that we were going to offer ways for people to nurture themselves through grief, or to how to get through this experience. And so, what would you suggest to folks?
Suggest to folks,
or nurturing their way through this.
I go this place, and I go to heart-centered awareness, and I stop, and I get out of my reactive state, which is that self, and I go back to, okay, just a minute. Why did this push my button? And I just really look to be very aware or conscious, whatever word you want to use, about where I'm responding from, where I'm reacting, if I'm reacting or if I'm responding. And so I look to be very deliberate in noticing from moment to moment. And, we have different ways of doing that, but in going to the grocery store, for instance, and in the hustle and bustle of Thanksgiving shopping, and going, whoa, you just pushed me out of the way, right, with a cart, and I get to stop and I go, oh, she just focused elsewhere. There wasn't a need for me to be reactive. It was for me to just notice that the dynamic was a cart ran into me. And that's the way I would have acknowledged it in the first place. I didn't go with my first instinct was not to say, oh, you pushed me out of my way. Who the hell are you to do that? That wasn't there. It was, oh, we're all busy trying to get to the meat counter. It's very practical reality, day to day, how to engage life. My working principle is to come from a place of compassion, to be kind, to do no harm. And that's my reality set I work out of.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I can't get pushed, but that's where I'm going to be. Yeah.
And I acknowledge that I am both consciousness and I am body personality form. And it's my body personality is the one that is grieving. Because as consciousness, I don't experience loss. There is no loss as consciousness. Right. But my body is experiencing loss. My body is the one experiencing grief. My body may be the one experiencing being threatened. And so I can take charge as consciousness to nurture myself through this. I can I can parent myself through this difficult time. And when it's me making that decision, I as consciousness making that decision, I can make choices that are in the best interest for me. Maybe I need to have a media break. Maybe I have to get off of Facebook and Twitter for a while. Maybe I need hot pads and chocolate. And then making sure that it's myself as consciousness making those choices and taking those actions and being the one to drive the bus, and not the me that would rather drive that bus across country to a protest that's going to be going on, January 20th kind of thing. Which if I'm being reactive, then it's my body personality self. And if I'm being neutral, if I'm being compassionate and aware in that bigger way, then it's myself as consciousness.
And it's about using this skill, because it's a skill, and it's a life choice, right? A lifestyle choice. So it's not something that I have to reclaim every Sunday morning. It's something that I'm actively looking to be connected to, so that I can hold for both those versions of what I can embody at any moment, and have them work together. That this is user-friendly interface. That in that I look to stay out of the judgment part of how I'm showing up as much as possible, because I understand that in consciousness it allows for everything. So the only one who's judging is me, the self, the human interaction part of it. Consciousness doesn't judge. It allows for all. So that's my reality state. So there's oftentimes I see things I don't like personally. There's times when I show up in ways I would rather not show up in my interface with others and stuff. And instead of beating myself up, it's more of a chance for me to go, that seems to be an area where stuff is stuck. Okay, let me get to that. And it's either in the moment that it can be different because I'm engaged in it in that way, or I'm in a different state that says, shit, I got to deal with this later. And as soon as that's a different state of awareness, I think it's important to go, what's my reality state that I look to more favor? Is that things work in my world. There is synchronicity. There is a moment, whether it's sitting on the toilet, that I can grab and say, get present. And it's not something to be saved up once a week sometime, somewhere. It's like, okay, I have to go shop, I have to cook now, I have to drive. All those are moments of places where I can check back in and see how I'm doing. And, a lot of us have our awareness level set for right in the moment and we don't remember. Because I often hear that in group. Well, why didn't I remember to do this? And it's like, because you don't have it set that way. And don't judge it. Just notice that's your reality set. You'd rather go blindly into experience without any foresight or hindsight or whatever sight is going on. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just one way to experience things. We're seeing a lot of that show up.
Well, it's challenging not to match the status quo, and the status quo is operating without consciousness.
Yeah.
And it's, your need to sit behind the wheel of your car and yet not be your car.
So what other kind of grief? So we've got a lot of gender stuff up. Right?
We do. We've got about a minute or so before we take a break. So, okay. In terms of other forms of grief, I think we need to generalize at this moment.
Yeah.
You can conclude something in 30 seconds. Right.
So there's a lot of gender grief. We're caring for parents. We're caring for our mothers. We're caring for our sisters. We have a lot of men that are carrying their mother's grief and their sister's grief, and we've been aware of that in group. And, I think that's what made this time so potent, is that it's in so many different things. When you pull the scab off, not realizing there was a scab, now it's an open wound, all this stuff's going to come out, right? It clears from the whole system. The whole body will put out the infection, and you don't even aware that you have an infection so often. And so it's all these different family things, generational wounds. So you, our listener, we're all feeling this, and you may be very surprised by what you notice. But there is an okayness. I want everyone to understand that. Underneath, we're all okay. And it's just water moving.
Great. And on that note, I want to let folks know that you're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And I'm your host, Joan, along with Janet. We've been talking about 50 Shades of Grey. We have to stop for a commercial break, but we will be right back.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan.com/purpose joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs. Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan. This is Janet, and we are talking about 50 Shades of Grief. So that was a wonderful show, and we had a really great connection about 50 Shades of Grief. And we're going to let everyone stay in heart space. This is what we do now, is that we let everyone stay in heart space. You can go out into your day in this wonderful state. It is okay to drive and operate heavy machinery from heart space.
And just notice those things going on around you. And we've articulated a few out of all that we've been noticing. You yourself may be aware of other flavors and shades of grief, and maybe there is no grief. See, that's the joy of this work, is that in putting a label on something sometimes works really well for it to just disappear and dissipate, because that moment of awareness is all that it needed. And then sometimes you get a lot of story in there, and the story can be very distracting after a while, actually. So
exactly, or you might be experiencing something that isn't grief. It might be anger, it might be something else. Mm-hmm. Everyone has a unique response and their own experience, and you move through grief in different ways. You know, people spent a lot of time crying, for instance, from November 8th until now. I go at the opposite end. I didn't cry until earlier this week when I watched a show about Lincoln being shot. That got me crying. But, I go straight to Mad Max to start with. So we each have our own way of expressing experience. And just, like Janet and I were talking before we went to break, was about ways to nurture ourselves through this, ways to navigate through this. Janet is right in the present moment, where that Janet makes choices in the present moment, how to react or not react, and your default space is compassion and heart. Yeah. And for me, I notice when I'm in a reactive space, that's not me as consciousness, and it's making a choice to navigate my life as the greater consciousness that I am, and that as the greater consciousness that I am, I can also nurture and take care of my body personality, which is the one having the reaction to all the stuff going on. So be extra good to yourself this week, and make sure you have an extra piece of pie.
Yeah, your hips will appreciate it. Well, I think another part, Joan, is that when you find yourself in the reaction, sometimes it's, we want to judge that. And it's not about judging it. It's sometimes about having that reaction, I think. And I feel that there's nothing wrong with having this human quality, because this is what gets stuffed and stuck. There's all the people that were unable to express in a useful, helpful way. And I've really been noticing and observing myself that I feel for others. I experience others' energies, whatever the story is, that I'm doing it in a way because others can't. So I'm articulating that energy. And that is a powerful thing, to be able to do. And you and I and lots of people we know do this. And in doing that, it helps clear the field. It helps release it because you and I can articulate it in a way that is useful. And this is what is so empowering. It's not for everybody to have the same experience. It's not for everybody to have the same awareness. It's the majority or the few that do. I'm always in a 100th monkey principle mode. It just takes a few and that makes a change. And we've seen that play out here a lot. So everyone's going to have to come to a moment of awareness or not, right? It just depends upon where they are as consciousness. Not for me to judge that.
Yeah,
so.
we can all have our coming to consciousness moment. More and more. I want to remind people of ways to go deeper with us and to connect with us beyond the show, and to remind folks that we have a website, Conscious Conversations with JoanandJanet.com. You can listen to all our past shows there, listen to our podcasts. You can also access Janet's website and my website. You can read our blogs. Janet puts out her writings on Mondays, and I do mine on Fridays. And we have very different points of view about things, so there's fascinating reading there. We also have meetups around the Puget Sound, and our listing there is Janet does hers twice a week in Portland, and I do mine all over the place, from Seattle through Tacoma and places in between. So the most recent ones are on our meetup page. Incidentally, I'm in Queen Anne in Seattle on November 27th, which is this Sunday. And then I'm in University Place on Tuesday night, the 29th. And reminder that we're on Facebook, and you can follow us, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, on Facebook. Join the group and join the fun. You can find Janet on Facebook, Janet Barrett, and you can find me on Facebook, Joan Marjorie Newcomb. You can also follow the show on Twitter, which is at Joan and Janet on Twitter. And then if you want to have a lot of fun, follow me on Twitter, because I go wild on Twitter, at Joan M. Newcomb. And then you can subscribe to us on YouTube. If that is your preferred method, you can binge listen to all the shows on YouTube. It's actually Conscious with Joan and Janet, I think, is how you'd find us on YouTube. But you can Google Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet and find our shows. And then I'm on YouTube because I put out my Mystic Minute each week, my reflections on things, and you can find that there as well. And you want to tell them about the Conscious Conference Call?
Sure. I think the next one's going to be December 15th, right in the beginning, right in the middle of the holiday season, I think. The third Thursday of the month, 7 p.m. Pacific. Come and join us and go to Heart-Centered Awareness within yourself for the holidays. It's a great place to be and deal with all the things that'll come up and things to notice. Holidays are always wonderful places to feel the delight and stress of being alive and being part of a clan. So you can take it any different direction you want. And we have a wonderful time there. It's just lovely.
Right. I think we mentioned earlier, there's each time you join us on this intimate experience, it builds a stronger resonance, and we're able to go deeper into consciousness. And so that's so much fun. So you can bring your questions, you can have a direct dialogue with us, and the group is just getting stronger and stronger. So it's a really wonderful way to go deeper into heart space about that.
Yeah.
I just remembered that the other thing is that, we talked about doing our individual sessions. And I have, if you go to my website, joan-newcomb.com, I have a special consciousness technique for coping with what's going on in the world today. So if you sign up for my email list on my website, you get access to this YouTube video of this technique. It's a consciousness technique that I was filming as part of the curriculum for my coaching programs. I have a couple of different coaching programs that I do that you can learn for yourself how to navigate the world as consciousness. And this one just seems so important for what's going on in the world today. It really allows you to be able to not only be the player on the field, but also be up there at 3,000 feet, which I'll tell you is probably the easiest way to get through what's going on right now.
Totally. And I just want to leave this awareness with everyone that there are many people in the world that are connecting, and everybody has a viewpoint. If you make it about right or wrong, you're stuck. And so just allow yourself, because everyone's going to justify their viewpoint, and you see that. So it may not agree with you, and that's okay. What it allows you the space to notice how you feel about things, how you think about things, how you experience things, and to just really get clear on what is important to you and whatever level of awareness that you've been sitting in. So, and reach out to people, right?
Yeah. So for Pete's sake, don't be judgmental, because that's a bad thing. And if you're judgmental, you are going to get stuck, and being stuck is a bad thing too. So don't do that. Do not do that.
Yeah.
Listen to Janet.
Yeah, give me a call.
Because being judgmental is terrible, and judgmental people are bad. So don't do that.
Is that what I said? And we want to wish all of you a happy Thanksgiving. And it's a perfect timing, right, to be appreciative and grateful, no matter what that is and no matter what it looks like. And to just stop and whatever you're doing and just take a moment, maybe take a couple moments, and just value who you are and how you show up. And then just breathe, everybody. So we're going to leave you with that. Just breathe.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan Newcomb.
And I'm Janet Barrett. And thank you so very much for joining us today.
Yes, tune in next week, same time, same channels.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And thanks so much for helping to co-create the show, no matter if you're listening live or on demand. You energetically contribute to our collective experience. Joan and Janet love to hear from you and invite you to email your comments and ideas for them to explore each week. Contact them at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Tune in next week for another great show, and until then, keep enjoying this wonderful adventure we call life.